Hey everyone, it's Ivan with kitbadger.com, here to tell you about the Surefire 2019 Battle of the Bills. Let's go ahead and start with, what is it? The Battle of the Bills is something put on by Surefire. Surefire as in the flashlight, suppressors, all different types of stuff out of California. They ended up putting on this 3-day training / media event. It's invitational. So it was myself, as well as a bunch of other guys kind of within the industry as far as either writers, other people with YouTube channels, magazines, different things along those lines. And they basically brought everyone together for this 3-day training event. Had full 3 days, first 2 being kind of a workup of sorts, and then the last day actually putting stuff together in all kinds of actual dynamic force-on-force exercises, and also being a media event. Had a bunch of people there capturing media, whether it's stills or all kinds of video, which as a content creator is amazing because going and trying to participate and capture an event can be difficult. And yeah, it was this big event that they put on with the help of a bunch of sponsors to include some really amazing instructors. Which brings us to the Bills. 2 different gentlemen. First one, Bill Blowers from Tap Rack Tactical. Also, Bill Rapier from AMTAC Shooting. Both of which really well respected within the community. Amazing, like vast knowledge of real world experience to draw from. Incredible instructors, their ability to convey information. And yeah, on top of that, kind of coming at it from 2 different angles as far as actual experience out in the world. And it was basically chocked full of awesomeness. A bunch of different training, the way it was set up, basically swapping back and forth between Bill Blowers and Bill Rapier, first half of the day, second half of the day, working for those first 2 days, and then ultimately culminating on that 3rd day into a kind of live FX scenario-based training, force on force. The training, like most places, kind of crawl, walk, run. Initially starting, we were broken into 2 different groups. It was myself and 3 other gentlemen, one of which, Mike, Mr. Guns and Gear, Ian from Recoil, my buddy Mudge, a freelance writer for a bunch of different publications, and we were put together. The way the class was structured, crawl, walk, run, and to that end, kind of getting a baseline. And we started with Bill Rapier out on the pistol range, getting some shots, working, drawing from concealed one-handed, and kind of moving through that. And at lunch, end up switching over, going to spend time with Bill Blowers, working carbine as well as pistol, again, out on the flat range. And the progression of training kind of moved through. They're both Bill. Bill Rapier's training kind of focused on more combatives. We ended up doing some work in the mat room, all kinds of different strikes to include blade work, and also shooting under pressure. One of the cool drills we did was his around the world drill. So you start basically paced off from your opponent, hopefully friend in this scenario. And once you're there, on the command, you essentially turn, draw, fire 1 round, sim guns. So there is a penalty, and you also want to get your hits. And so it's one of those where, yeah, I can be really quick and just shank my round out into nothingness, or I can slow down some. And of course, you don't want to game it like turn, see the other guy had already shot and missed, and be like, I'm gonna take my time, I'm gonna smoke you so good, like in the thigh. No, don't want to do that. And so you slowly, essentially starting in different positions and having to turn and draw, having to move, create lateral movement and draw, and all these different kind of scenarios in a, well, scenario is the wrong term, but different drills in the context of drawing and shooting and actually having input at the same time. It's really easy to be really fast and accurate, and honestly there's no consequence at all on like the flat range. And so as soon as you have that force on force, you're like, man, all right, I want to get this out really fast and I want to be accurate at the same time and hopefully not get hit. But really cool kind of working through that stuff with Bill Rapier. Conversely to the pistol knife combative stuff with Bill Rapier, with Bill Blowers, our basically kind of all the focus was around largely carbine, a little bit of pistol as well, and CQB. Essentially working angles, movement into whether it's center fed or corner fed rooms, and kind of everything kind of in that element. And it was cool, like just getting reps. It's one of those where a lot of people don't work stuff like that because oftentimes it's hard to find classes. And while I definitely have had some experience in the service, contracting these different things to include law enforcement, it's always good. Like, I always appreciate the opportunity to get reps in doing that stuff, as well as to see just little nuanced ways that, like, oh, doing it this way, like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. These things, while it's not this huge leap forward in technology and tactics, like, no, there's absolutely progress and stuff. When I think back, like running through Mount Town in the Marine Corps, like back in like '98, like things have definitely changed a little. And so it was really good getting all these different reps in with Bill Blowers. Well, the first couple days were spent out on the range, getting all those mechanics down and everything like that. That third day, we got to turn it up to 11. We actually went into the shoot house there, swapped out all of our bolts, UTM bolts, Sim Glocks, and went to it. They had some role players there, which was awesome. Like, good role players, people that actually react appropriately, give you the input that you need to make good choices, hopefully. And yeah, went through, kind of got some reps going through the shoot house. And then it culminated, of course, in full-blown kind of scenarios. Two different, actually really well fleshed out scenarios, giving us opportunities to work essentially everything we had crammed in those first 2 days. So largely part of the scenario was a kind of close-in, potentially combative scenario, which relayed all those skills that we had learned with Bill Rapier. And then from that, we ended up moving into a structure. The way the scenario was created, we either needed to go find someone, go get someone out, or go hunt someone down. And yeah, kind of at that point, using all those skills we had learned with Bill Blowers as far as CQB room clearing and stuff along those lines. Amazing, amazing event. In addition to some pretty cool training out there, got to use some pretty rad gear. Of course, put on by Surefire, got to use all of their stuff. Starting with their SOCOM 556 RC2 suppressor. Great little can, be able to throw on any like SBR 556, not that you couldn't put on a full size 2, but that was great running that out there. And of course, their different lights, to include one of their new scout lights. Essentially has kind of a built-in mount, allows you to get really close to the rail if you're trying to keep everything low pro so you don't bang the thing off on a like door jamb or something along those lines. I'm not sure when, probably coming out before too long. There'll be more information on that. And yeah, some of their other stuff too, whether it's their Defender Light or their X300 Ultra. And in addition to kind of all that Surefire gear, we got introduced to some pretty cool stuff. One being Bravo Company, got to run their 11.5-inch M-LOK uppers. And with that, we also got to put in a little bit of time with some gear I've never used. One being the Unity Tactical Risers, which essentially allowed us to get the optic higher, as the name implies, which was really important running UTM masks. And while they're not made specifically for that, they work great for that. But any type of mask you have to wear, whether it's like field protective mask, like gas mask, all those different things, worked really well. Also put in some time with First Spear. They had a bunch of different gear out there, whether it's clothing, the carriers, and honestly, one of my favorite things I'd never experienced before was their gloves. Hadn't never tried them out. I'll be bringing a full review in the future, but got to put in some time with those. And we also did some shooting course with, got to have magazines to feed it, so running some Magpul magazines. And one of the things I had kind of my first experience with was the PHLSTER floodlight. Basically, it is a holster that'll hold any pistol, put X300 on it, and yeah, you can throw it in there. which is pretty cool, especially from my standpoint, like reviewing different guns and like, I don't have a holster for this. Being able to just throw X300 on anything, throw it in there, concealed in the waistband, pretty cool holster. One question you may or may not have is, why did Surefire put this on in conjunction with like all these other companies? Good question. I didn't even think about it until kind of after the fact. Honestly, all I said was thank you. I was like, like I got invited to this thing. I get to go do some amazing training, full-blown like scenario-based force on force at the end. Like, thank you. It's awesome. And later I was actually thinking about it, and obviously on some level it's valuable for Surefire because it gives them a bunch of content with respect to marketing and things along those lines, like all kinds of different media, a bunch of still photos that they can use, Instagram, whatever it may be. But I think bigger picture, both with Surefire as the other represented companies, is I think some of the value comes in that, yes, they brought people that create content, whether it's myself, Mike, Mr. Guns and Gear, all these different people. Yeah, like we have YouTube channels or some other form of outlet where we create content. But with that, probably, I don't know, maybe half the content creators there were prior service. You'd either spent some time in the military, law enforcement, whatever it may be. And of that, I don't know. I don't know everyone's experience, like who has done CQB or who has done this or that. And I think a big part of the value that actually potentially came from an event or an event like this, to include like this event, is actually getting people like time with equipment and like solid reps in with, and like, okay, cool, here's a light on a gun. Like, yeah, turn it on. Or versus Bill Blowers, and it's like, hey, like we're gonna go ahead and run our light, like this is how we wanna do it, this is the way we wanna manipulate it, and actually bringing the education piece to how these different pieces of gear are actually used, I think is really valuable, because you'll turn around and you'll have people that maybe they don't necessarily have like schoolhouse experience with any of this stuff, and getting them essentially trained up to where it's like, hey, like actually know how this is designed and intended to be used. It's valuable, because then at that point when people start talking about it in a review or something along those lines, it's like, oh yeah, like what it allows is for you to do this, and we want it to do that because of these different things. And so like here is inherent value in this piece of gear if you're actually looking to apply it in like the circumstances it was designed around. To that end, I think this event was incredibly valuable for not only myself, but probably everyone there. I think everyone definitely got some really good information out of it. And with that, just kind of helps me, and I'm assuming some of the other people, I'm not gonna assume anything for them. I will speak to myself. It definitely helps me with respect to speaking to some of the different pieces of gear as I move forward doing reviews and stuff like that. And yeah, like it essentially gives you a just more training, more reps, and the ability to hopefully articulate why you would use something in a certain way, in the way in which it was designed. I mean, it's like, hey, here's a knife, you can like cut pie with it. Or hey, here's this knife, here's how and why it was designed, and here's the training that goes with it. And you're like, wow, okay, like that makes sense now, if that makes any sense. To wrap up all that though, Surefire 2019 Battle of the Bills, in a word, it was rad. Really good time. Got to spend some time with some really awesome people that I previously hadn't met, and yeah, got some really good training in, made some good friendships, and got some cool content. Really, really grateful for the opportunity to be out there and do that training and bring you guys this content, and hopefully end up doing more stuff like this in the future so I can bring you guys along vicariously through my content and yeah, share it with you guys. But as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.
I don't know what the answer is.
But you had to think about it. You had to think about the question.